regulations. And part of the challenge, I think, for those of us on the left coast or west coast, is when you fly to Washington, D.C., you're actually flying back in time. So you get out and like, listen to this 8-track tape, the whole thing. It's a bell bottom. It's almost like we're so behind where we are. And it does create some problems. And the basic idea, the basic minimum, that is that those of us that have ecological concerns and passion, we're not the job killers, we're the actual job creators right now across this country. The Bureau of Labor Statistics just did a study, and we apparently right now have 3.1 million green jobs in America right now. 3.1 million. If you don't agree with them, the Brookings Institute, Brookings, no left-wing radical group, Brookings, says we have 2.4 million. Now, get a sense of, and these are the fastest growing sectors in the American economy. That's growing against gravity with the worst economies since the Great Depression. Congress stuck on stupid, and the green sector is still growing faster than everything else. 2.4 million green jobs. You want to have a point of comparison? How many coal miners do you think we have there? Okay, can you guess? She said 80. Says 150. You got it all right. About 80,000. She has her. See me on YouTube. Yeah, 80,000. And those are America's heroes. The coal miners themselves. I don't mean the coal industry, I mean the coal miners. The ones who risk their lives every day to try to keep the lights on in America. They risk their lives, they risk their lungs. We're now asking them to blow up their grandmother's mountain, scrape the coal out. Those people are to be respected. There's only 8,000. We have 100,000 people working today, right now, in American solar. We have 100,000 people working today, right now, in American wind. That's not, so when you start going through energy efficiency, smart batteries, A123 is making a big announcement, I think, tomorrow, the big battery company. We have a lot of people, if they're going to do that, between 2.4 million, 3.1 million people right now got up this morning and went to work in green industry. Now, when you think about that achievement, in the face of, again, Congress has been missing in action, in the face of incredible competition from our friends in China, who we can talk about later, who are basically flooding the world right now with cheap solar to wipe out American industry. In the face of this fake boom in natural gas with fracking, still, and of course, recession, we're still making this dream come true. And I think that we should be proud of ourselves for that achievement. And it has to do with our willingness to reject a false choice. Here's a choice that they want you to make in Washington, D.C. and too many parts of our country, not very important ones. Who do you love more? Your kids or your grandkids? That's a false choice. Who do you love more? Your kids or your grandkids? If you love your kids, well then you've got to put food on the table, we've got to grow the economy, we've got to do whatever we've got to do. So you grow any kind of way, chop down every tree, any job's a good job, poison the water, doesn't matter. We got to make sure our kids have an economy that works for them. And that's great, except your grandkids will live on a dead planet. On the other hand, if you love your grandkids and you want them to have a thriving planet, then don't do anything. Just stand still. Try not to breathe too hard. And your grandkids will have a beautiful planet. It's just your kids will starve to death. Now this is a transparently stupid argument. really one of the fathers of the whole green economy movement. One of the smartest people probably ever born. Still doing incredible work on solar down in the Bay Area. So you have this like one of the great geniuses of the world talking to a child. Now, who's going to win this one? So this young woman says, this little African girl asks him, why are some people poor? She's kind of picking up on something. She's kind of looking around. She's after marriage. You know, here's this guy, here's something. And she just comes up, why are some people poor? You know, Paul Hawken realized this is kind of an important moment in this child's life, you know, developmentally. And how he answers the question can be helpful, harmful. So he starts to try to get an answer on the table as well. And sometimes people have a hard time finding work. Oh, well, is all the work done? Genius. And our answer has to be no, all the work is not done. There's no excuse. You look at our schools, look at our bridges, look at our roads, look at our aging population. Look at what we could do. We have all these people who need work. We have all this work that needs to be done. The first responsibility of our society is to connect those two facts. Connect the people who most need work to the work that most needs to be done. And the work that most needs to be done is primarily repowering America with clean energy. Putting up the solar panels, doing energy efficiency, all the things we talked about for a while now. They're really two revolutions that need to be driven forward. That can give us more work, more wealth, and better health in America. One is the clean energy revolution. That is simply changing the way we power our buildings and our machines so that we use cleaner energy and waste less of it. That's the clean energy revolution. The second revolution is changing the way we power our bodies. That's the local organic food revolution. If we change the way we power our buildings and our machines, that's the clean energy revolution. If we change the way we power our bodies, that's the local organic food revolution. If we change the way we do food and fuel, we can create more work, more wealth, and better health. That's the big, glaring, obvious opportunity in the new century. And we are beginning, despite all of the forces against us, to make headway. Why? Because there's not any other alternative. The last economy, the one that collapsed, had 3 flaws in it. And those 3 flaws have to be responded to in order to have a new economy that will work for more people. So you don't have to be some crazy greedy. You may have noticed the last economy collapsed. Anybody get that memo? And you don't have to be on the far left. The last economy collapsed. Why? Because it was based on 3 fallacies. Fallacy number 1. We can have an economy based on consumption rather than production. Both political parties fell for this one. We don't need actual productive labor. We don't need factories. They don't make anything. We can just send all that overseas. We'll have our economy based on shopping. What could possibly go wrong here? We'll just have an economy based on shopping. That seems weird to you, don't worry. We'll shop economy that will have to replace it will be based on production, preferably local production, conservation and thrift, like our grandparents, and ecological restoration. In other words, a green economy. That is the definition of a green economy. Local production, conservation and thrift, and ecological restoration. Creating jobs that respect the people in the planet. That's not just some liberal, schmiberal preference. That's the only way out. And if you try any other approach, you're likely to get more of the same what we just got. You might find another bubble to ride, but it won't last long. So, in your companies and in your hearts and folks you're patronizing, to seek for a livable future. And not just for liberals, for everyone. That's a big responsibility. And the way that I'm talking might seem strange for a National Democrat, but it wasn't that strange even 4 years ago. Let's not forget where we were 4 years ago. 4 years ago, you had a guy that ran for the presidency of the United States. And he said, climate change is real. Climate change is caused by humans. He said, fixing it will require something called cap and trade. But if we go with a cap and trade program, we'll create more jobs for Americans. Do you know what that person's name was? John McCain. That was John McCain. John McCain, the standard bearer of the Republican Party, ran on the idea that climate change is real, it's caused by humans, cap and trade will fix it, and it'll create more jobs. If you don't believe me, I will give you $1 million of his money. If you can show me one clip where Obama and McCain fought each other on this issue, on our issue. One clip. They had 3 debates. The only thing they agreed on is this point. Show me one ad that John McCain ran saying, climate change is a hoax, green jobs will destroy other jobs. You won't find it. See, the only thing we had that bipartisan agreement, thanks in large part to the leadership of Al Gore, that this is something we want to do as a country. And it got completely taken away from us. What happened? Well, I just wanted to review this sad history, how we came up short, to hopefully give you a reason to take me seriously on why we got to grow this movement. You would think, now, again, I was very naive when I went to Washington, D.C., but you would think that if you had both political candidates of both parties in agreement on an issue, the President of the United States, Obama, having run on the issue, green jobs, cap and trade, etc., 60 votes in the Senate with the Democrats survive the backlash. Now, we did try to do some things, and I just want to, for those of you who are a little bit, more on the political geek side, Irene and I were together in Washington, D.C. She worked for the Congressional Black Caucus. As a matter of fact, I got to brag on Irene for 1 second. Stand up, Irene. This is one of the great heroes of our show. Stand up. One of the great, stand up.
So the rational mind would say, you've got these situations
Thanksgiving, and your favorite cousin or uncle who watches, what is that, sneaky furry mammal? Fox News. When your favorite cousin or uncle watches Fox News 24 hours a day, comes and tells you how EPA is a job killer, you can say, no, I'm sorry. The chemicals and the toxins and the pollution that EPA is stopping, those things are called people killers and kid killers. And we're going to stick up for the people who are, for those agencies that stand up against kid killers. Thank you very much. But Lisa Jackson, sitting right there, you got a tough EPA head. You got this communistic, socialistic agency called the EPA. Except that it was created by who? Richard Nixon. So it's Richard Nixon's EPA. And it's got this communistic, socialistic law called the Clean Air Act, passed and signed by who? Richard Nixon. So here you've got Richard Nixon's EPA with a competent head, and Richard Nixon's Clean Air Act. And then the existing Supreme Court, the one we have right now today, says that the EPA, with that law, has the authority right now to stop the polluters. You know that? This Supreme Court, the one we got right now, the Roberts Supreme Court, says you don't need any more evidence, no more science, no more nothing. You don't have to pass anything in Congress. You don't have to do anything else. You've already got all the regulatory authority that you need to just stop the polluters. Is that what we do? No. No. Why? Wouldn't be bipartisan. That would be big government. We want to be bipartisan. So, let's look for other answers. Here's the answer. Let's pretend it's not a regulatory failure. Right? No. I'm using fancy words. When I say regulatory failure, this is what I mean. If there is a river that children drink water out of, and there's a man that comes every day at noon with a big barrel of cyanide, and he pours the cyanide into the river, what is the rational response to this behavior? Stop the man. Stop the man. The rational response is saying, you, sir, shall cease and desist. You gotta make it sound fancier. So we have all here. Stop the man. Let's go. You have a regulatory failure. Therefore, you can regulate the behavior. Would it ever occur to you to say to yourself, cyanide must be too cheap? If we could just get the cost of cyanide up, you see, then you'd have a financial incentive to stop doing it. Would that occur to you? You aren't smart enough to be that dumb. That's your problem. You have to move to Washington, D.C. to be smart enough to be that dumb. So now you have to say, well, it's not really a regulatory The revolving idea is this. The Heritage Foundation, you guys heard of the Heritage Foundation, the most conservative foundation in Washington, D.C. Center. The way you fix it is, rather than letting the government set the price of property, i.e. tax it, and then let the market give you the quantity, we'll just do the reverse. We'll have the government set the quantity of property, cap the quantity of property, and then let the market set the price for trading. The government, do you trust the government more to ask a scientist how much carbon should be out there next year, and then give you that number, that cap? Or do you trust the government to figure out a bunch of complex economic problems? So we said, you know what, actually, this cap and trade thing could work. Let the government say this much carbon and no more, and then pass out permits for that much, and then let everybody get a trade around. And those want the right prices. It's flexible, it's business friendly, it's market driven, there's no tax involved, there's no regulation involved, it's in the Heritage Foundation laws. So we will go with the cap and trade solution. We will adopt the Heritage Foundation solution. And you know what they call us? Communists. But wait! This is your idea! That your guy ran on and said it was good! How can you now say it's a communist totalitarian plot to destroy America? And then we have a TV station. We can say that we and that is when it turned out that we were very broad and very shallow. And we didn't have enough people who would have the conversation long enough to stand up to complete foolishness from our point. Well, who should have been with us? We'll talk about that in a moment. Who should have been with us? They should have been with us. Libertarians. Your favorite one? You can't stand to sit next to at Thanksgiving. You watch that fuzzy, predatory mammal thing on TV all the time. Libertarian. No, I don't. Shouldn't every American have the right and the liberty to power their own homes? Why should Americans be dictated to every 12 months by monopolistic power companies that will tell you how much you're going to pay for your energy bill, where the source is going to come from, how many asthma inhalers you're going to have in your community based on their power plants, and give you literally no right out except to sit in the dark? Why should Americans be dictated to every month by these big monopolies? Shouldn't you have the right and liberty in your own country to put a solar panel on your own roof, to put some micro wind turbine in your own backyard, not only power your own home, but sell that power on a public grid to anybody who wants it, and compete with anybody or cooperate with anybody to discharge the fruit of your own labor, enterprise, and effort? You don't have that right in America. They should have been with us. These power companies, I hope none of them are sponsors this bill. But all too often, exercise monopoly control. Listen, I spent my whole life fighting for poor folks. I worked with Jeremy Hayes when we were down there in Oakland again. Jeremy Hayes right here. Stand up, Jeremy. Get Jeremy around. I know you guys know you can take there. Stand up, you two. Stand up. Jeremy and I found something together called Green for All. And Green be great if grandma, rather than having to write, if she's, your grandma's living in the flat with the sun beating down her house, why does she write a check to the power company? They should write a check now. If we did this right, we'd be able to even convince libertarians. See, libertarians act like we're the ones who want subsidies. We're the ones who want to mess up the free market system. And if we were honestly in a dialogue with our libertarian friends, we would just point out a few things. First of all, it's the coal and oil companies that have the subsidy. These are mature industries that have been around 150 years. They still get massive subsidies. They get free subsidies. First of all, they get direct subsidies and tax breaks to the tune of billions of dollars. Second of all, the oil companies have the entire, 80% of the Pentagon spend its time trying to figure out how to help them get their private for-profit products here to sell. Policing all the oil lines, that's what they do. That's what the Pentagon does. And then they get it pollute for free. If you want to attack subsidies, don't attack our pro solar companies. Go after the oil and coal companies. We'll stand with them. In other words, we like free markets. We would like to be in a situation. We like free markets. We would like to be in a situation where the people who are getting massive subsidies do massive damage, lose their subsidies, and we give the support that we need to get our new industries up and running so they can compete with each other. We like free markets on our side. We like so much, we like to see a free market in the United States now. That's how much we like free markets. We like to actually have more in energy. We don't have more. We have massive subsidies and monopolistic behavior from the big guys. So the libertarians can do it. You know who else should have been arrested? Most of the red states. You know why? It is true that if we do our wind and solar agenda, that we will have in the blue states a lot of industrial action. We'll be making wind turbines, we'll be making solar panels, but where will we be deploying them? We're not going to build a lot of wind farms in Manhattan. We're not going to build a lot of solar farms in Manhattan. You know, we're going to build them. We're going to build them out in the red states. Think about that. We're going to build these things out in the red states. That means what we often associate with as hippie power. You say solar power. Well, it's hippie power. So solar power, solar panels. That's for those hippies in Portland, in Berkeley. Maybe. But it's also cowboy power. It's also ranching power, farmer power. Get one wind turbine on your family farm, you're about to lose your family farm. You get one wind turbine, you get $10,000 to $20,000 per year just to watch it turn. How many family farms do we lose? We'll keep growing your crops, but let's also help grow some energy. Who else should have been with us? African American Latino folks who live in urban environments. There are representatives who are able to be with some of those. So we got the folks in this room who know better than I do. The energy efficiency agenda that can help people earn and save money by making those homes, those urban environments more energy efficient. That energy efficiency agenda is not what is usually talked about. Of course, when we talk about great solutions. But that is a way out for people who got kids standing on the street corner. You can say to the kids standing on the street corner, brother, put your handgun down. Pick up this coffee gun. Pick up this coffee gun. And help us to make this neighborhood more energy efficient. Save your grandmother some money. Say, who else should have been with us? Every parent in America. See, part of the problem that we have with the food side of this agenda is that we don't take responsibility for making sure that the low carbon, low pollution, organic and local food choices get to people who most need them. Getting organic food to poor folks is a very smart strategy. Michelle Obama knows better than anybody else to build a bigger constituency for these families. But we don't count what counts in the inner city. We let folks get away with it. in there, brown people, stuff like that. Liberals love the question that we're asking. We're asking, how can we save the earth? Liberals love that. Right? And they say, how can we save the earth and get jobs for poor people? Liberals, woo! Liberals love the questions that we're asking. Right? But conservatives should love the answers. What are the answers? We're not asking for green entitlement program. We're fighting for green enterprise. You want more business? We're not calling for more green welfare. Sometimes welfare is necessary. That's not the core decision. We're not looking for more green welfare. We're looking for more green work. We're not trying to redistribute anybody's wealth. We don't think big polluters deserve all of it. But I don't think anybody's going to argue that they do. BP itself, by itself, BP, my favorite company, BP, makes $60 million a day, every day, in net profits. After they take the oil rigs, after the yachts, after whatever they're doing, every single day they make $60 million extra dollars every single day. You go back to the Pharaohs, you won't find anybody making $60 million a day doing anything in the history of humanity. Okay? So, they don't deserve, our tax dollars. But we're not redistributing anybody's wealth. We're talking about creating opportunities to build new wealth in new ways. The agenda is about work. It's about enterprise. It's about empowerment. It's about opportunity. It's about letting everybody play. This is the best of the American set of values. So, what it means is, there is a way forward. We have to be doing a much better job of communicating about it. But communicating out of your mouth is a reaction to, or is a product of, a change in what's happening in our hearts. We spend too much time being proud of ourselves for having the right answer first. And we spend too little time thinking about the pain in the rest of the country. And the pain in the rest of the country, including in the red states. It's not just urban environments, it's not just Appalachia, it's not just Native American reservation. Now the pain is everywhere. The economic pain and fear is everywhere. And we have a goal. We have a goal. We have a way out. We have something that is good for the whole country. And some of us who had a rough time in some of these red state flyover zones as kids went scamper into the blue strongholds, went scamper to the blue college towns, and we built little fortresses of blue and green PC righteousness. Not you, but people you know. It's time out. This is not about our comfort. It's not about us feeling good about it. If I reach out to the